everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Westchester. You guys know who I am, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about Water Wellness Week, but we also want to get you fired up about my guest. We'll be spending time today with Aaron Ableman, United Nations award-winning environmental artist, educator, and best-selling author. So you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
It's such an honor to be here.
Oh, I am so glad that you were able to spend some time with us here today. Now, I realized before we start talking about our Clean Water Awareness Week that I might be introducing you to some folks that are unfamiliar with you and your work. So, my first question to you is, and I know you can't give the all, but tell us a little bit about yourself. What makes you you?
I'll do the time lapse version of my story, but first I just want to say that um, these kind of platforms and the democratization of media and just being able to elevate our collective wisdom right now is so powerful. So thank you again for having me. My name again is Aaron Ableman. I'm a best-selling author, multi-format artist, working in publishing, in books, in music, in television, as well as a performing artist. But really central to my life's work is my commitment to the biosphere. I am a passionate environmental advocate, and my work really bridges creativity, ecological stewardship, and I would say spirituality or consciousness exploration. I've been in this soup pretty much my whole life.
Mhm,
I was raised on a small farm in the central coast of California, Chumash land, Santa Barbara County,
mhm.
and my father is a master farmer. My mother's a public health care nurse, and I was raised on this farm where we stewarded 100 different fruits and vegetables, and it actually
Wow.
became a major community center and had a big impact on the statewide and national sustainability movement. And
Mhm,
so, yeah, this is really just an extension of my childhood in a way, or at least the archetypal experiences that I had growing up, looking at the world through nature's eye view, and now my passion to really invite young people and as a teacher and educator, well, in all different places where I show up, it's
mhm.
this combination of science, art, and spirit to heal the planet.
And I love that during this week we are having like-minded people come together and share their experience and how they're able to make sure that we have this accessibility to clean water, however they choose to do it in their industry. I love it. Well, clean water connects us all. It is the thing that shapes our health, our communities, our future. And we are exploring Clean Water Awareness Week through the theme of Every Drop Has a Story. In each conversation, we are highlighting the people, the projects, the communities that work to protect, restore, and provide access to one of the most essential resources, the water on our planet. So, because of that, we will be listening closely because every drop really does matter. With that being said, Erin, let me ask you, you have said that water may be more than just a resource, that it may be a carrier of consciousness itself.
Mm.
When did your relationship with water shift from being practical to being personal and a personal reflection.
Hmm. Well, as I said, I grew up with this awareness that we are ultimately an extension of the planet. We're not separate from the planet at all. And science proves that every day that we are in an interconnected, closed loop system, ultimately. Um, but I also, I remember going to Hopi Land in Arizona to visit with my actually had an adopted Hopi grandmother, Caroline, and she was just about the most amazing presence in my life as I could have imagined at 5, 6, 7 years old when we would go to visit. Her wisdom around just thinking deeply um, about water and food and soil. And, that's a place where it's very harsh conditions. It doesn't rain much at all. And yet, 4 or 5 thousand years at least, the communities there have been in harmony with that land. And they've basically been able to not only sustain, but maintain an extraordinary quality of life there that is, in my estimation, an example of what happens when you integrate culture with an appreciation for
Mhm.
land, for water, for it, just kind of the basics, actually. And that it definitely, um, it was amazing to see because, for example, you know, before not only before eating, but before uh, taking water to drink, you're actually you're praying to the water. You're just, and it's not a whole prayer. It's not performative. It's just gratitude to the water. And when you eat, when you put something in your body, you're just saying thank you for all of the relationships that brought that nourishment to you. And I watched Grandmother Caroline with a keen eye of respect, and she just seemed more joyful and happy as a result. Like it just felt like there was a real connection that was profound for me.
Mhm. And you're so right. I think that when we understand that living in harmony is is the key, right? I think that for so many people, we talk about that we need to make sure that we are loving each other. And I think that is so important when it comes to how we live. That love to me also equals living in harmony with nature and making sure that we are being the best advocates of the resources that have been entrusted to us. And for me, that thing is water. We can't go get any more. So we need to make sure that we are taking care of what we have here. So I love that story. Now, after decades of the work that you have done in conservation, education, and with watershed advocacy, what story about water do you feel is perhaps not getting enough light, or we aren't simply we're talking about it, but we're not talking about it enough?
Yeah, well, I think it comes back to the critical importance of watershed education and culture building, which to me is really not just the why and the education around the statistics or the facts and the science,
Mhm.
right? But it goes beyond just water. It's watersheds, I think, are something that's not spoken of enough, like from the ridge to the reef, ultimately, right? That watersheds are the lifeblood of ecosystems, communities, and economies worldwide. They regulate water control, they support biodiversity, they sustain agriculture and human health. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Um, Yet watersheds actually face unprecedented threats from pollution, deforestation, urbanization, climate
Mm,
change. This is what happens when you have a culture that's not honoring or being grateful to the things that sustain us, right?
yeah.
And so this is the why water. Well, first of all, I think the story of watersheds and just naming that, right? Because protecting water security. There's over 2 billion people globally that lack access to safely manage drinking water. I think that's according to UNICEF. Healthy watersheds are essential for clean, reliable water supplies. They're biodiversity hotspots. Watersheds support nearly 80% of terrestrial species and just countless like aquatic organisms. We so much so we don't even know half of what's going on, and yet they're keeping us alive. And so, degrading these systems really threatens global biodiversity. Um, Climate resilience is crucial when you think about watersheds buffering against floods, droughts, extreme weather. That makes communities more resilient to climate impacts. You know, and then the final piece for me is really just as I said from the beginning of this um, share here is that the cultural connection, the storytelling, right? Listening to the narratives of indigenous peoples, of local communities that have stewarded watersheds for millennial. They
Mhm,
have the embedded ecological knowledge it's in them, and it's in their
mhm,
stories, it's in their songs, it's in their, family lore. It's it's this kind of like I guess culture building as a solution that I think is so important. Uh,
mm,
and you know, there's a famous quote from Sir David Attenborough that the climate crisis isn't actually a scientific challenge; it's a communications issue. And when you
mm,
think about it from that standpoint, it becomes very clear. And why your work is so important is because, and our work, right? Because I'm
mhm.
also, I'm publishing books. I'm doing viral videos. I'm putting out, music. I've got, ambitions to, move more into film and television. And, these kind of spaces are very important for just having a level of just just presenting what solutions are available to us, and who those solutionaries really are. And the solutions for me all start with watersheds and, you know, uh, cultural education, to be able to translate this knowledge to collective care.
And I love that you are bringing attention to if you are a person of a particular culture who has always respected nature as the resource that is important to our very lives. Continue that aspect of your culture. Don't allow someone else to tell you that it isn't important. The stories still need to be shared. The wisdom still needs to be passed on. However, we can pass it on in this generation. You never know. A story that your grandmother or great grandparents have told you can be shared on TikTok or Insta, right? Like it can be
There
that
it is.
one thing that might make the difference for the next generation to go, wow, I didn't know. Or I knew, but I didn't know that other people agreed with me. Let's continue to raise our voice. I love it. I love it. Well, it is time for us to take a very short break. But before we do, if someone wants to reach out to you or follow you on socials, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, well, find me at aaronableman.com or gaiasgame.org. That's AARONABLEMAN.com or gaiasgame.org, GAIASGAME.org. And you can find me on Instagram. It's Aaron.Ableman.
I love it. Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can take a visit. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Birch Tester. My guest today is Aaron Ableman, and we are going to jump back into our conversation about water. Aaron, I know that having the conversation for so many people about the thing that is near and dear to their heart. They're not sure if they should talk about it. They're not sure when they should talk about it. So I'm so glad that you are joining me here this week as we talk about clean water awareness. Much of the water advocacy that we find in recent conversations seems like it focuses most on policy or on legislation. Why do you believe that culture, that education, and even the spiritual narratives are just as essential in the conversation about water?
Well, look, all of us are coming from our unique sense of heritage and
Mhm,
have our unique lens unto the world based on the the culture that we're born into. And it's very important that we um, recognize that there used to be um, much more of a bridge between the culture and the biological or the life
mhm,
systems that kind of shape those identities and shape our communities. And that's one thing that we're really a lot of the organizations and campaigns, initiatives, projects that I'm involved with is lifting up is really the biocultural necessity, the necessity to actually reconnect to bioculturalism, which is essentially just bringing our fashion, our music, our communication, our, um, sense of like shared community back into relationship with the planet. And
mhm,
it's ironically easier than it sounds. It sounds sort of academic when describing it, but really it's just actually some people say if you want to change the world, just throw a better party, you know? Um, and I think, I mean, look, I'm not I'm just gonna say outright that I think, Bad Bunny did that at the Super Bowl recently. It's that
mhm,
sense of like, this is my culture, this is um the longer arc of what I'm inheriting, and I'm just a part of that continuum. I thought it was really powerful that he showed farm workers and he showed aspects of uh, the complexity of Latino and indigenous and Puerto Rican culture that are just mind-blowingly beautiful. And
mhm,
and it was done through joy. It was the joy of music and dance and I think that's why culture is so important and why cultural education and an
mhm,
appreciation for the differences that we all embody is so important. We're obviously seeing, you know, we're seeing the power of biodiversity every day when we look at nature, right? If you look at
mhm,
any healthy forest, it has vast biodiversity all the way from the canopy down to the humus of the soil, in the root system, and the more that we mimic healthy ecosystems and um, let's say more life-fulfilling systems on the planet, the more that we will actually, I think, uh, yeah, have a better chance of living well on this planet.
mhm, mhm. And I over the past day or so, watching the TikTok videos of the various cultures have like Super Bowl parties, right? But they're waiting for this moment, and they share with us just the excitement of hearing their country. Now, even though they may be, born and raised here in America, um, their grandparents' country or their great grandparents' country, like that country that is a part of your heritage, being called out, and how everyone was just overjoyed. I saw one video where the lady said, did he just say Canada? Like he included us? Like, oh my goodness. And I thought that that was just so endearing that it was absolutely, if we could have that perspective of, love is greater than hate. And if we look at it from that perspective, we're all in that list, right?
All of
So,
us.
it's like maybe your family lineage isn't from any of the other countries, and maybe your lineage is here in the United States. Well, guess what? You were named too. You weren't left out. So
That's
I
it.
love
God
how
bless
it was.
America. You know,
Yeah, God bless America. It was so inclusive from that aspect, and I love it. Now, along that same vein, as an environmental artist, how do you share the story of art and storytelling? How do you make sure that the story continues to reach people? Because it's not always about the data. It's not always about the reports. It's not always about the numbers. Sometimes we have to share it in a different medium in order to still reach the masses. How do you do that as an environmental artist?
well, the arts are so powerful because they ultimately speak to an emotional dynamic that is very, very much at the heart of humanity. It's like I guess you could say that it's a heart language, many languages, and there's many different formats and crafts and approaches. And, as artists, I think we have that responsibility to really tap into the emotional connection first. Um, and because that's actually an older part of the brain and the consciousness experience for humanity.
Mhm.
It's like there's a reason why music is the universal language, and you could be listening to a song in another language and you still actually feel it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing I mean, as somebody that's performed all over the world, and remember when I was in Paris for the United Nations climate talks in
Mhm.
well, yeah, gosh, it's 2015 now, 11 years ago. So just to give a sense for the trajectory, but that was where the whole world came together and acknowledged that the climate crisis is real, and that humans have a major part in the Anthropocene of affecting the planet. And there's all of this very, very high level, um, world leaders in negotiation, all the scientists, everybody's kind of talking at the same time. And
Mhm.
thankfully, there was a global agreement that was formed. That's why the climate agreement that came out of Paris and at that time was so historical. But at the same time, it was like a cacophony, and there was something about the artists that were invited to present their work and their perspectives on um, you know, the ecological issues of our day. But not do, what I loved about it was like we were all coming from our different traditions and genres and the different crafts that we were expressing in, but we're kind of all saying the same thing.
Mhm.
and we're really doing it through this emotional language of our craft, you know, and that's what I love about being an artist, and I think that's one of the reasons why um, people really pay attention to the arts, even when it does on occasion feel superfluous or maybe not essential to the infrastructure needs of the, you know, the public-private sector. But artists do play a role as communicators, and particularly communicating to the heart of things.
Mhm, mhm. And when we think about music, because I'm of that generation that remembers when the bands got together and we are the world, type thing. Like, yes, I remember that in real time, and it made such an impact, and people realized that
Huge.
music really and truly is such a driving force, and that when artists get together, not only do they share with us their lovely music, but they're also reminding us that we can be great human beings along the way. So I could not have thought of a better way to close out our series today. Thank you so much, Aaron, for not only the work that you do, but for inspiring the next generation to lift their voice and continue to be advocates in their own way. Thank you.
Such a blessing to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, before I let you go, one last time, please, if someone wants to reach out to you or if they want to follow you on socials, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, again, tune into some of the work that I'm doing at aaronableman.com or gaiasgame.org. And again, I'll spell that out, AARONABLEMAN.com or gaiasgame.org, GAIASGAME.org. And you can find me on all the socials. On Instagram is probably easiest. I love to connect with folks and collaborate. You know, I've worked with just thousands of folks all over the world on really great things. So looking forward to connecting.
Absolutely. Thank you again for being a guest today.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you for spending time with me here today as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with me, and I thank you for doing so. I hope that we have once again enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.